Welcome to CAFC News. Today, the topic is women's health and their participation in sport.
Women face a lot of barriers in sports and exercise which begin at an early age. This is driven by a combination of hormonal differences and gender stereotypes. At the age of 14, girls drop out of sports due to puberty, and there's an extreme lack of conversation around this. Up until 2024, only 6% of sports research focused on women and their bodies.
Thank you for that, Sefras. We'll now cut to our lead interviewer, Mia Garrett.
In relation to the topic of periods, pregnancy and/or menopause, have any of these ever affected your playing career?
Yeah, period, most definitely. I think growing up from the age of like 16, I had really bad periods where I couldn't really eat. So obviously some of the times when I was away of England and I was playing for England, I was being sick and couldn't really eat, so it was a massive issue for me. So I had to sort of go to doctors and try and get things to stop that sort of issue, because obviously energy and things like that I needed to eat to fuel my body. They started giving me like anti-sickness tablets, didn't really work. So in the end I just went on the pill. So I was on the pill for nearly like 20 years. So probably not great for the body and things like that, but it's something that I needed to do to fuel my body to make sure I could perform.
Did you feel comfortable speaking to your managers about this sort of stuff?
Probably not at the time when I was away of England. It was probably like a thing I didn't want to talk about, and a thing I just sort of dealt with myself. But I knew it weren't right. I knew I had to sort of go and get help professionally, and I used to maybe talk like a little bit to the physio and stuff like that, but probably not to the managers.
What effects do you feel this may have on women's sport in general?
I think, as we touched on just now, just not being able to talk about it and not being going to talk about it. I'm probably quite lucky. I've had a few female managers where I probably could have that conversation. And back in the day, I probably couldn't go and talk to my male manager about these issues. A lot of the physio was female as well, so that's quite easy to talk about. But I think that probably will help. There's more female managers nowadays and more female coaches that you can go and talk to about it.
What do you think could be done to address these issues?
I think a lot is done more nowadays, so I think they get a lot more support around this sort of area. I think even male coaches have been educated about it, but I feel like it still does affect your performance, so they just need to be aware of loading and things like that, training, matches, and how it can affect people. And I think there's a lot more studies gone into it. And I know at the top of the game, like Chelsea and that, they look at menstrual cycles and how it will affect them.
Thank you for that, Mia. Now we'll head over to Temi, who talk about the relevant issues that women face.
A woman's menstrual cycle lasts 28 days, and within those 28 days, women experience periods, which typically last 5 to 7 days. Effects of a period can include heavy bleeding, cramps, hormone fluctuation, cravings, and more. This can prohibit women from achieving optimal performance in sport, and yet isn't discussed enough in the industry. Pregnancy is a particularly touchy subject in sport and workplaces in general. Women often must choose between family lives and their careers. Pregnancy should be celebrated and supported rather than demonized. Women should be supported during their pregnancies and postpartum to ensure they come back equally capable to fulfill their job.
Thank you for that, Temi. We conducted some interviews in our local community. Here's what they had to say about the topic.
So Kiana, what do you think about when you hear the phrase women's health?
When I think of the phrase women's health, I think about periods, pregnancies, and women and girls' mental health.
I think about a lot of things that women go through that men don't. I think about periods, I think about pregnancy, I think about menopause, and I think about how all of that can impact a woman's mental health as well.
And how do you think this affects women in sport?
I think it has an impact on women in sport because, again, when girls are going through puberty, particularly at a younger age, boys are a little bit insensitive towards that. I think that has a knock-on effect through comments and negative stigmas, so girls sort of feel a little bit less comfortable getting involved in sports in comparison to boys.
Well, when boys comment on our appearance and abilities, it leads to low self-esteem, which makes girls feel insecure on playing or participating in sports. I think it's wonderful because it keeps women and girls active, and it's fun as well.
My opinion on women's sports is that it's good. So I run a grassroots football club myself, obviously through my job at Charlton Athletic. I see a lot of women's sports. I see it from a grassroots level. I see it at an elite level. I think it's growing, and I think it's in a positive place at the moment.
And lastly, how do you think we can fix the issue?
I think there needs to be a lot more conversation around the topic, particularly, again, what you guys are focusing on in terms of women's health. I think mental health needs to be discussed more, physical health needs to be discussed more. I think there needs to be a lot more money put into research around these topics. And I think there just needs to be a lot more support from a grassroots level right up to the elite level.
I think that we should make sure that women get more attention on sports mainly, because obviously women don't get a lot of job opportunities in the sports industry.
Thank you for listening to CAFC News.
Tune in next week.